The art for today's video is not related to the podcast I will be recommending. And as always, Daryl Recommends Podcast is a podcast recommending series and shouldn't be mistaken as a reviewing one. Opinions about each show are my own and should not reflect what each podcast has to offer. Content warnings aside, I believe if any recommendation in my series interests you, you should give it a chance, regardless of how I personally feel about the show.
The sun rises on a cold winter's morn.
But the noonday rain drives pilgrims for shelter.
Good. Any news? I'm getting tired waiting here.
We found a door. A fixed one.
Where?
You are not going to like this.
Where?
At the bottom of the Marianas Trench. One of our probes picked it up this morning.
That's not going to work.
Isn't it better than on the surface of Io? You wanted a fixed door. Any of the other doors here move around too unpredictably to stake out with any degree of accuracy. So far it's this, or deep space travel. Those are the only fixed doors in our solar system that we know of. We've no way presently of getting outside the solar system to look, and we sure haven't cracked getting to other dimensions on our own yet, unless someone's been real quiet on that front. If you want to get to the library, then this is your best bet.
Fine.
S dwells into the library's infinite death, searching for their colleagues among its endless stories. Their quest brings them to reckon with what dangers the library brings to reality. Among the Stacks is a podcast about a library that holds every story in the universe and the dangers in it and out of it. So this one is a podcast I had to do a little bit of research on because the current episodes that are out, I guess, are currently not the actual season 1. In fact, all the episodes that are out currently about this is more of an anthology set in the universe that builds up on the lore rather than actually what seems like the plot for the description has on it. I went and I found that out recently when I was looking into it because admittedly I have not been keeping track of the progress for the show for its official season 1. So it was a little bit of news to me when I was typing up this episode, but I am still recommending it just because what it has out is really good. It took me a couple hours to listen through all the episodes, but I really love the short stories that they wrote for it, especially with some of the lore building that they built up for this universe and just how they made this, a library that's infinite really interesting as a concept, especially when they tie it into the fact that they also kind of introduced outside groups that are trying to access this library for malicious reasons. So I think it's still a really good listen, even if what they have out isn't really much of a narrative plot, one set story, and more so of an anthology, but it's just a bunch of short tales, so it's not really something that is super too interconnected, mostly same universe stuff. There's a couple of reoccurring characters, but that's really about it. Sometimes they'll mention the main protagonist, but I don't even think the main protagonist shows up in any of these stories. I gave it a re-listen recently, and I could not have a character come up that actually is the main protagonist, but that's okay. It's still really good. And the cast for the show is really good too. They has a lot of people recognizable from shows that I previously recommended, like David Ault and Alistair Stewart, Alex Kingsley, and more. And just everybody's really good. The acting in this is really good. The audio design, especially the audio design, is probably my favorite part of the show, besides just the nice narrative. And it's just very good. Because it's more of an anthology thing, even though this does have a description for a plot, for a while I was like, I don't know what's going on in the show, but I'm really enjoying what it does have going on in it. So there's that. And it's just how some of these stories are very funny, because some of them are there's one story that gets very grotesque and gory and awful, but then there's other episodes that are just kind of chill, and a couple that are kind of sweet, and a couple are kind of oh, that's kind of fucked up. And then there's silly ones about lizards, and Muppets, and I think it's just done so good. It's very funny with how they built all sorts of different things together into it. So, but like I said, there's not a lot in it. It's not a lot to it. I mean, there's not a lot in it right now. So I don't know what the direction the show is going in. I did saw that they're currently going about restructuring the show for season 1 and doing how to go through with where they left off the show before it went on its hiatus. I know they did upload Christmas episodes last year, so, you know, it's not like the show has been forgotten or anything. So that's good. That's good. There's like only one episode, like I said before, with like viscera and gore, so if you're worried about that kind of content in your podcast, you don't have to really for like most of the episodes in this, except for that one episode. So that's good. But yeah, eventually I hope that we'll actually get to see a season 1, because I'd like to know what the story to go with this is, especially with how they like built up these outside forces trying to break into the library. And I'm just interested to see how it is. So yeah, good lore building. Can't wait to see the story that goes with it. So that's all for this episode. Like I said, it's a very short podcast. It took me a couple hours to listen to all the episodes. It's very much if you need something, if you're doing a bunch of stuff a whole day and you need something to listen to, this will pretty much get you through the whole day. So as always, I will be linking down to their Tumblr. I believe they also have a Twitter. I think I follow it, so I'll link that too. And if you always have a recommendation for a podcast you want me to listen to, give it to me. I will eat up those recommendations. I think they're very delicious. They help nourish me, and I am in the middle of finals at school, so I very much could use that. And as always, you can also follow me down below. I had recently opened up a Patreon, so if that sounds good, go ahead and do that. I would appreciate it. Anyway, that's all for this video. Goodbye.